Kellyanne Conway joins us live here on the couch. She was in Virginia last night, flew back.
Ainsley.
It looks like, and I've looked at the, for the most part, the Twitterverse online networks, pretty much everybody on the planet says Mike Pence won last night.
There's no question, and that's why today the Democrats are trying to spin it as if he did not, especially after they spent all of last week talking about the ground rules for deciding who won and who did not. You know how you know Mike Pence won the debate last night? Number one, you watched it.
Right.
Or number two, you're listening to everybody last night and today say, these vice presidential debates don't really matter, won't move the needle. And they're, you know, I think in addition to Governor Pence's stellar, spectacular performance, Tim Kaine was just terrible. I mean, those are two separate things. He interrupted 72 times.
Well, that was their strategy, wasn't it? As I interrupt
you. It doesn't play well on TV, Steve. I mean, the interruption and, frankly, the ignoring of the female moderator was really a low point throughout the debate.
Wait, are you suggesting that was sexist?
Well, I love using that word because it's the word that the left and the Democrats and Hillary Clinton's folks love to employ against everyone who doesn't support her. If you don't support Hillary Clinton, you're a sexist. So why in the world was her running mate interrupting and ignoring the female moderator, Asian-American female moderator, by the way, completely? It was almost like it was his strategy. It was almost like he didn't hear her. And it came off terribly on TV. I think that the 1-2 punch of Bill Clinton stepping on Hillary's message, saying Obamacare is the, quote, craziest thing he's ever seen, and then the next day her running mate doing her no favors in his awful debate performance, that's the men in her life are doing her.
Well, the word was that he was not aiming for Mike Pence. He was aiming for Donald Trump.
Mentioned Donald Trump's name 160 times. That's not a debate. That's an obsession. Yes. Hi.
Kellyanne, you're talking about women. Let's talk about women's issues, the abortion topic. You had Mike Pence attacking Hillary Clinton for her extreme abortion position, third-term abortion, very controversial. And you had Tim Kaine, who was flip-flopped on this issue and had to embrace what Hillary Clinton is believing in. But you're not hearing that story from the mainstream media. Listen to this soundbite, then let's discuss it.
What I can't understand is with Hillary Clinton and now Senator Kaine at her side is to support a practice like partial birth abortion. I mean, to hold to the view, and I know, Senator Kaine, you hold pro-life views personally, but the very idea that a child that is almost born into the world could still have their life taken from them is just anathema to me. And I can't conscience about a party that supports that.
We support Roe versus Wade. We support the constitutional right of American women to consult their own conscience. Why don't you trust women to make this choice for themselves? We can encourage people to support life, of course we can, but why don't you trust women? Why doesn't Donald Trump trust women?
I believe it with all my heart, and I couldn't be more proud to be standing with a pro-life candidate in Donald Trump.
Kellyanne, as a woman, why isn't the mainstream media talking about how Tim Kaine is flip-flopped on this controversial issue?
Oh, because abortion's like a religion to many of them and their adherents. Ainsley, last night was a moment I've been waiting for literally for decades. I've been working on messaging in the pro-life movement for decades, and finally we have somebody running for president or vice president who articulated it perfectly. Go read the Democratic Party platform on abortion. It is basically abortion anytime, anyone, anywhere. It is not the safe, legal, and rare stance of President Bill Clinton. There's no exceptions for sex selection. You can basically find out the sex of your baby and decide for that reason only you'd like to terminate your pregnancy. Donald Trump has said if he's president, he will sign into law the Pain Capable bill, which basically is nonpartisan scientists and doctors saying that at about 20 weeks, a fetus can feel pain, so you should not have an abortion after that. Abortion, late-term abortion, they were talking about the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment basically means no taxpayer funding for abortion. I don't pay for your abortion, you don't pay for my Viagra. Not to get so personal, but it sounds like a pretty good deal. It sounds like fair to the taxpayer, but I thought this was an incredible moment to show the extremism of the Democratic Party in abortion. This is probably the only place you'll hear it today.
So, Kellyanne, just to build on this for a second, you say there's a right way to message it, but do you also say, no matter what your beliefs are, if you go out and say, I'm going to overturn Roe v. Wade, that'll be also something that would hurt any candidate?
Well, that's why Tim Kaine was trying to go there and pretend that Donald Trump and Mike Pence are against women. This is a very stale talking point on their side. And the fact is that people believe that the states should decide. their health care policy, and many other policies, frankly. And this is no exception. I mean, what Roe versus Wade did was it made a federal policy. It made a federal policy many years ago. But I think that when you chip away, you look at very few Americans in this country, those who call themselves pro-choice included. They say, I'm pro-choice, but I'm not pro that. What do you mean, 7th, 8th, and 9th month? No, I mean, if this happened or that happened. That's the point, is how extreme, because they love to say, to Ainsley's point about, quote, women's issues, they talk about women's issues, and it's really a euphemism for abortion, or they'll talk about women's health, and they really mean abortion. So forcing them to even say that word. We at the Trump-Pence campaign think all issues are women's issues. I've been doing this for 28 years. I have never a single time heard the phrase men's issues.
Sure, exactly.
The idea is that men can handle all of the issues.
Right.
You were talking...
We can't even call ourselves men anymore. We're people.
Oh, we love men.
You, person-in-chief. That's right. Right-hand person. You were talking a moment ago about the number of times that Tim Kaine, Mr. Budinsky, but into the moderator, the female moderator.
Rude.
But then again, the moderator is taking heat because it seems like she kept interrupting Mike Pence. We got some soundbite. We don't have the soundbite.
It's not important, but she did, what, 70 times?
20, she interrupted 27 times, and according to Brett Bozell at the Media Research Center, she asked Mike Pence 8 really hard questions, and she asked Tim Kaine 1 really hard question.
Well, and that as it is, you see who won the debate hands down. I think Governor Pence just came, and he actually broke new ground. The thing I would say about Tim Kaine's performance last night is he sounded like all the Hillary Clinton paid advertising. He sounded like what the campaign's been about. He just kept on, chortling the same sound bites, and it's not fresh material for Americans.
Right.
Kellyanne,
go ahead,
I agree with you. Kellyanne, he wanted to get his point and his talking point that his coaches had told him to talk about Donald Trump not paying taxes, even though that was legal. So I thought this was bizarre. He tried to say, because Donald Trump hasn't paid taxes, therefore he must not like America, therefore he must not like the military. Listen to this, and then we'll get your reaction.
The New York Times story suggested that he probably didn't pay taxes for about 18 years starting in 1995. Those years included the years of 9/11. So get this. On 9/11, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump's hometown was attacked by the worst terrorist attack in the history of the United States. Young men and women signed up to serve in the military to fight terrorism. Hillary Clinton went to Washington to get funds to rebuild her city and protect first responders, but Donald Trump was fighting a very different fight. It was a fight to avoid paying taxes so that he wouldn't support the fight against terror.
Yeah, whoever gave him that soundbite ought to not be involved any longer. I thought that was a really low point to try to conflate all those things together. 9/11 was a national tragedy, and Hillary Clinton was in the United States Senate and did what many people did on a bipartisan basis, which was fight for the 9/11 first responders. But also, I did feel in that moment that Tim Kaine was on, he was really on very shaky ground, because he's sitting next to a guy like Tim Kaine, who has a son who's a U.S. Marine, and I think that if Donald Trump has made his campaign about anything other than make America great again, build the wall, it's been the veterans and the military and law enforcement.
Right. I do want to bring you to the big issue, Vladimir Putin and taxes, or the big thing about Donald Trump not paying taxes. That's been the buzz since Sunday's story came out, and did he release his taxes? Yesterday, Donald Trump brought up George Soros, who had a $1.6 billion loss, and another, Warren Buffett had another multi-million-dollar loss. How does that apply and help define what Donald Trump did? Well,
it helps define it in this way, in that the tax provision that Donald Trump used in 1995 has been on the books, Brian, since 1918. And if President Obama and his democratically controlled House and Senate felt so passionately that it should be eliminated, why didn't they make that a priority when they had control of Washington? The other thing is, and Tim Kaine knows this, so he was being disingenuous, Donald Trump has paid hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes over a decade. City, local, and state taxes, federal payroll taxes, property taxes, real estate taxes, sales taxes, excise taxes. The man has contributed mightily to our economy and has done something Tim Kaine and Hillary Clinton have never done, which is create a job. And so sign the front of a paycheck, not just the back of a paycheck. So I thought that was a really low moment. The other thing about the tax provision in 1995 is Two things. Number one, the New York Times said he may not have paid taxes for a number of years. We don't know. Number two, in years that he did make a profit, this being a very profitable man, obviously, in years he did make a profit, of course he paid income tax like the rest of us do.
I read a tweet this morning, if more liberals paid taxes, they would know that anybody could write off investment losses. But that's something else. Sunday in St. Louis, the presidential candidates are going to go head-to-head at Washington University. What can we expect from Donald Trump?
Oh, powerful performance, a great format, the town hall format, engaging people in the audience. I think it's a much better format for him than for Hillary Clinton. He's just more practiced with, she's a much more practiced politician, certainly, and she rehearses things, obviously, but as does Kaine. But he's more practiced dealing with people one-on-one. That's what he does, you know, in these rallies, and when he comes off of the rallies, he's engaging with people for sometimes an hour or longer afterward. And I think he's going to take the case right to her. We really appreciate President Bill Clinton coming out this week and telling us all what a disaster Obamacare truly is, and saying it's the craziest thing in the world. He's becoming our best surrogate, by the way. You can invite him here next time in my place. And take the case to her. Look, this campaign is what it's always been about, past versus future, failed politician, typical politician versus successful businessman. If you are part of the 70% of Americans who say you want to take this country in a new and different direction, you're with Donald Trump and Mike Pence.
All right. Kellyanne, we will definitely be watching. How does what happened last night, I assume that will help Donald Trump going into this next debate, because many people, the majority of people we're hearing from are saying that Mike Pence won last night.
Well, Mike Pence won for those, you know, scoring the winners and losers, but he did something else, which is he reminded people the great judgment and leadership that Donald Trump has exercised here. The very first decision you make as a presidential nominee is who is your running mate. And as Ronald Reagan said, personnel is policy, and the selection of Mike Pence to be Donald Trump's running mate really showed what great judgment and leadership he has.
Well, you must be pooped. You better go take a nap.
You left at 3 a.m.
Okay.
Kellyanne, thank you very much.
Got the 3 a.m. call, Brian.
Absolutely, and you answered it.
All right.